This is the solution for the REST API coding exercise, which is based on this tutorial that can be found in the Tethys platform documentation. In this exercise, we will develop a REST API endpoint for retrieving a time series at a location. We'll implement it in such a way that we'll be able to reuse the same underlying function that retrieves the time series for the plot capability on the viewer page. We'll be using Postman, so I've got it pulled up here. This is an excellent application that can be used to debug REST APIs. Before we start coding the REST API though, we have one item of business that needs to be taken care of. Go ahead and open controllers.py. If you start scrolling through controllers.py, you'll notice that it's gotten rather lengthy, and we're about to add a new controller for our REST endpoint. So what we're going to do is create a new Python package, which is like a folder of Python modules for our controllers, and split them out into separate files to make them a little more manageable. We'll start by right-clicking on Earth Engine and going to New Python Package, and we'll just call it Controllers. No.py. That will create a new folder with an init.py in it. This init.py is empty, but it's what tells Python that this folder contains modules and that this folder is a Python package. Real quick, before we move on, go ahead and reload the Tethys app directory and make sure that no init.py was created automatically by PyCharm when we created that package. Sometimes PyCharm does this, and that will break your app if that happens, or potentially other apps that are installed alongside it. So make sure Tethys app never has an init.py. Now that we have the controllers package, let's go ahead and create a few new modules in it. I'll go ahead and create first home, and then I'll go create another Python file called viewer, and finally another Python file called rest. Then we need to start moving the different components over. So I'll go back to controllers.py, and I'll go to the top. What I'm going to do is move the about and home controllers both into the home.py. Go ahead and select those two controllers along with the imports and copy them and paste them in home.py. Now notice all the grayed out imports. These are imports that are not used anymore, so we can get rid of these. This is a quick way to cull down the imports to just the ones that we need using the feature of PyCharm. Okay, let's go back now and get the imports again and put them at the top of viewer.py. Include the log in that copy, and then go and select viewer and all of the supporting controllers, which includes the handle shapefile upload that we did in the last tutorial, and the two REST, or I guess AJAX controllers that support the functionality of retrieving imagery and plotting. Make sure you have a new line at the end of each of these files. Python prefers that. And just make sure this is clean. Now, one other thing that we need to take care of is we have a few dot imports that are no longer valid because we moved in a directory. So we need to add an additional dot because now it's up 2 directories to get to that location, or rather outside of the directory we're in. None are gray, so we need all of these, so we'll just leave all of the imports there. We'll populate this REST module as we go with the rest of the tutorial. Now what we need to do is go to app.py and modify our URL maps to point at the new controllers. So the home controller is now in controllers.home.home. The about is in controllers.home.about. And then viewer is in .viewer. And let me copy this Get image collection is in that same module as is get time series plot. Finally, delete the old controllers module. Let's make sure Tethys restarts. I'm going to force it to restart by pressing Control-C and then typing Tethys manage start again. And then we'll go test out all of our endpoints to make sure that we didn't mess anything up. So first, home, looks like it's working. I'll go to the About page, also still working. Go back home and then launch the viewer. That appears to be working. Let's go ahead and load a data set. So that means that Ajax endpoint is working. And let's drop a point and plot it. And we got some data back, so that endpoint is working. Finally, let's re-upload our shapefile boundary. Takes just a moment to upload. And then go to the code editor to verify that it's working. It should have deleted the boundary, which it did, and we should get a new task here shortly. There it is. So all of our endpoints are working and functioning as we would expect. So we're good to go to start developing the REST API.